From the 42nd floor, San Francisco looked orderly ferries stitching white lines through the bay. The Golden Gate, a neat red underline on the horizon, Market Street cutting the city like a ruler's edge. Inside Coal Systems' boardroom, order broke on a slide of red trend lines. Costs up, burn up. Schedule slipping, said Claudia Price, the CFO, voice honed to a scalpel. She clicked to a final bar labeled Q, to that drooped like a wilted stem. We implement a 12% reduction this month. The board expects margins back in guidance next quarter. Chairs creaked. Eyes settled on Ethan Cole. Navy suit, narrow grey tie, posture that looked ironed. The window behind him threw a ghost skyline across his reflection. It would have photographed well. It didn't feel good. David Kim, the coup, cleared his throat. We still haven't addressed the anonymous email, toxic middle management, impossible deadlines, engineers pushing at 2 a.m., slashing headcount on top of that isn't a plan. It's a blindfold. Feelings don't close a quarter, Claudia said. Not unkind, just uninterested. Ethan uncapped, then capped his pen, a small ritual to keep his hands steady. The email had hit his inbox after midnight. Jittery sentences from someone who sounded exhausted more than angry. We never see the CEO except on magazine covers. We're asked for miracles and punished when physics wins. He'd flagged it to HR, told himself not to be thin-skinned. Then the metrics started to rhyme with the message. Give me a week, he said. The room tipped in a degree. I want to see the teams myself. Claudia's smile was razor thin, a listening tour. The market doesn't reward sentiment. Not sentiment, Ethan said. Signal. 2 hours later, glass and chrome gave way to a windowless HR room with a ficus trying its best and a printer that sighed like an old dog. Jamal Rivera slid a plain white badge across the table. Welcome to the glamorous world of contract work. Jamal said, eyes kind and practical. Name's Evan Clark. 6 weeks. Assignment, Aurora, CICD, support. Internal emails spun up, Slack, Jira, W9, the whole thing. Ethan turned the badge in his fingers. The sans serif font did not care about net worth. He unbuckled his Patek and dropped it into his briefcase with a soft, decisive thud. The suit jacket went on a hanger. A charcoal hoodie replaced it. He scuffed his mirror-shined Oxfords against the carpet until they looked like they'd met a sidewalk. In the restroom, he mussed his hair just enough, rolled his sleeves. The man in the mirror no longer announced himself. Why? Jamal asked, not accusing checking a pulse. So I can hear what people say when I'm not in the room, Ethan said. Start in the cafeteria, Jamal said. Truth lives at the table by the espresso machine. By 11:47, the cafeteria sounded like a train car at rush hour steam wand hiss. Fork clatter, bursts of laughter. Garlic from the pizza station waged a losing war against singular urgent coffee. Evan Clark joined the line with a tray and tried to stand like a man whose emails did not get forwarded to investor relations. He passed a table where a young engineer swiped through kitten photos to applause. Another group traded rent hacks and weekend plans to Tahoe. The ordinariness hit harder than any board slide. This was the company, too, sticky tables and all, near the windows. A small knot of engineers clustered around a woman with dark curls pulled back, navy shirt, posture like a metronome. She spoke quickly. Every sentence clicked into place. No one is pushing unreviewed code to master, she said. Aurora's pipeline is not trial and pray. A kid with a lanyard full of conference badges shrugged at his fries. But PM said, we got a demo Friday. She pointed at herself with a pen. That PM is me. I'm not buying velocity by bleeding people out. Evan sipped water he didn't want and read the name on her sticker-covered notebook. Maya Brooks, project manager. The stickers did as much talking as the name. Ship it, but don't burn out. On-call does not equal always on. Pay down tech debt. Someone at the edge lowered their voice, which made it carry farther. Layoffs next week, for real. Think the CEO cares. Maya's exhale was almost a laugh, almost not. If he did, he'd be down here answering questions instead of posing for the journal. The line slid under Evan's ribs with the neatness of a practiced blade. The instinct to explain activist investors, macro headwinds, Fed rates flared and died. Evan, the contractor, stepped closer. Mind if I sit? He asked. Maya looked up, measured him in a heartbeat, and nodded to the empty chair. Sure, I'm Maya, Evan, he said. The name fit too easily. Contractor DevOps, help. Perfect. She nudged a garlic, not toward a kid who looked like he'd skipped breakfast. You'll hate Jenkins by Thursday. Evan, can you check the canary stage this afternoon? It's flaking. On it, he said, surprised by the clean, bright satisfaction of being handed a problem that mattered. Someone cracked that Maya didn't yell, she stared until your conscience did it. She grinned. Do your job and no one needs a speech. He took in the thin bracelet at her wrist. The spiderweb crack on her phone taped carefully, the way she didn't posture and didn't ask where he'd come from. She ran her little country by the window. The citizens looked loyal. By 6:30, the Aurora war room glowed like a fish tank after hours. Sticky notes colonized whiteboards. A countdown read, Aurora demo T3 days. Monitors threw graphs in green, orange, and the occasional furious red. Evan rolled his chair to a terminal and let muscle memory wake. Canary stalls at deploy, he said. Rollback script hard times at 30 seconds. With the new model sizes, that's denial, not defense. Fix? Maya asked, arms folded, eyes on the logs. Adaptive timeouts with real health checks. Also kill the 1:55 a.m. Cronit, steps on batch training. Sounds like you've been burned by this exact setup, she said, a smile ghosting. In another life, he said, in a building a dozen floors above, with his signature at the bottom of a policy that encouraged it. Write the PR, she said. I'll review, he wrote. Code is a language your hands remember even when your calendar forgets. When he looked up, Maya was there with a paper cup steaming ginger and lemon into the humming room. Long night, she said. Thanks, he said, meaning it more than tea deserved. 2 nights ago, she added, eyes on an error chart tapering, an intern almost took the blame for a busted build. 5 minutes with logs, and there it was zombie cron from last quarter. If I hadn't looked, that kid would be wearing it. You covered him, Evan said. I covered the truth, she said, and I cover my people. Something in his chest shifted, like a stuck drawer giving on Claudia's slide. 12% was a tidy stripe. In this room, every percent. Had a lease, a cat, a mother who called to remind you to take your vitamins. He pushed the PR. She read like a surgeon, quick, where it was safe. Delicate, where it wasn't left. 3 comments asked for 1 proof, then merge. The dashboard softened from orange to yellow to green. The room exhaled in one breath. Somewhere, a lo-fi beat started low enough to be a heartbeat. Their laptops blinked in unison. All hands, 9 a.m. subject. Organizational restructuring. There it is, Maya said. The rumor had a calendar now. She dented a cardboard sleeve with her thumb. Tomorrow, I'm asking a question into a microphone. If the CEO shows, Evan said, aiming for humor, hitting gravel. I don't need him to show to hear an answer, she said. I need him to show to know who he's turning us into. Slack pinged. Thank you for your continued resilience. Restructuring will make us stronger. Claudia, the words blurred. Evan saw a neon post-it on the wall, go home future. You says thanks and felt stupidly moved. See you in the morning. Maya said, closing her laptop with a soft click that sounded like a door half shut, not slammed. Yeah, he said. Alone, he turned the white contractor badge until the plastic squeaked. On 42, he was the man who signed. On 7, he watched ink soak into skin. In the morning, he would sit under a stage and listen to someone, maybe a proxy for himself, deliver antiseptic language about efficiencies and realignments. He understood with a clarity that made his jaw ache. The one asset he couldn't raise, model or buy, would be the first casualty if he kept being the Ethan he'd trained himself to be. Trust. He killed the lights. Blue hum settled back over the room. He slid the Evan badge into his hoodie pocket like a promise and stepped into the empty hall toward morning. At 9 sharp the next morning, the 5th floor auditorium filled like a subway car at rush hour, laptops propped on knees, coffee cups tucked under seats, the company's logo pulsing on a screen the size of a garage door. Evanathan slipped into a row midway back, his white contractor badge flashing temp each time the stage lights swept the crowd. A banner slide glided into place. Organizational restructuring. Claudia walked out first, the click of her heels syncing with the clicker in her hand. She spoke in clean, pre-polished phrases that belonged in earnings calls. Optimize resources, refocus priorities, adjust staffing. David followed and tried to soften the edges, talking about dignity in transitions and career support. But the next slide had an org chart with lines and arrows that did their own kind of talking. Questions, David said, and a microphone began its wandering through polite hands. Someone asked about severance. Someone asked about open roles. Then the mic stopped at the end of an aisle, and Maya stood. How much of the 12% lands on Aurora? She asked, voice calm, words precise. Who owns the deadlines that created the burnout you're cutting into? And last, will the CEO take these questions in person, or is he still operating in the stratosphere? A low ripple moved through the room. Evan felt every syllable like a tapped glass. Claudia's smile didn't move. The CEO is meeting with the board on long-term strategy, she said. Maya held the mic a beat longer, the pause deliberate. Strategy that ignores the people doing the work isn't long-term, she said, and sat. Scattered claps found each other and became a wave. Evan kept his hands in his pockets and his eyes on the exit signs. He could feel the shape of the words he should be saying and the weight of the disguise he wasn't ready to drop. After. The cafeteria buzzed with postmortems and gallows humor. Evan stood at the espresso machine, pulling a double he didn't need when Jamal appeared beside him like he had an appointment with the steam wand. Don't fix fast, Jamal said, as if continuing a conversation. Listen first. What do you listen for? Evan asked. The same thing a market does, Jamal said. Confidence. Trust is our currency. You save it slow and spend it fast. If you want to stop the run, you show up, tell the truth, and you keep telling it tomorrow. He clapped Evan's shoulder and disappeared into the noise. Evan tasted the bitter thought about liquidity and followed the current back to the 7th floor. By early afternoon, the Aurora war room was humming. Maya stood at a whiteboard with a dry erase marker and broke the demo into tasks small enough to breathe. Ticket 4827, rollback adaptive timeout. Evan owns. Ticket 4830, Canary health probe. P90 threshold. Evan reviews. No one touches master after 7. If it's not worth doing at 9 tomorrow, it's not worth doing at midnight. A junior engineer raised a hand halfway. The policy email this morning said we're doing a weekend bug bash. Mandatory. The word hung there like a smoke alarm. Evan didn't need to check his inbox to know the message he had approved the template 2 weeks ago. The room's temperature didn't change, but the air got heavier. Maya recapped the marker, set it down, and kept her voice even. I'll take it up the chain. If they don't listen, we move the milestone. We don't buy stability with people's health. Evan watched 2 things happen at once. A dozen shoulders drop by a fraction, and his gut twist. The policy he had signed from 42 was now a weight on 7. That Maya was lifting because he hadn't. The pager app screamed at 2:03. .m. Evan jogged back to the war room with a hoodie thrown over a t-shirt and found the room still lit, the air stale with spent coffee. Maya was at a terminal in a cardigan and sneakers, hair in a knot that had lost a battle hours ago. Canary fell over, she said, sliding a keyboard toward him. I reverted 1 bad flag. There's something else, chewing CPU. Cron, Evan said after a minute, pointing at a swarm of times. A zombie job from last quarter wakes up and tramples autoscale. Of course, she said, tired amusement skimming her mouth. We should put garlic on the cron tab, or delete it, he said. He patched the autoscale guardrails, killed the job, and pushed the PR. Maya read in a way that made him feel both watched and respected. Fast where it was safe. Exact where it wasn't. Merge, she said. The error bars bent back toward normal. Maya's phone lit and buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen. Mom Care Center and stepped into the hall. When she returned, she was smiling, a real, small one. She reminds me to take vitamins, she said, like I'm 8. It makes her feel useful. Evan nodded and pretended to focus on the logs. He wanted to ask things that weren't his to ask. He didn't. He filed away the fact, like a variable he might need later. By morning, a fresh reminder about the weekend bug bash hit every inbox, bolded and underlined. In stand-up, Maya kept it off the agenda and then opened Slack anyway. I'm taking Aurora's questions to HR's anonymous town hall at noon, she wrote in hashtag Aurora-General. Drop what you want, asked. The questions populated faster than the coffee pots emptied. Why are badges tracked to the minute? Do we get overtime pay when mandatory shows up? Has the CEO ever taken an on-call shift? By noon, the auditorium was full again, but the energy was different. No slides. Just Jamal, on stage, with a laptop, reading top-voted prompts. When Maya's proposal hit the screen, can we sign a sustainable pace charter? No forced weekend work as a default. No time tracking like a factory punch. No punishing people for saying no. Evan heard the quiet intake of breath, the way you hear a crowd realize it's been thinking the same thing. It's a serious proposal, Jamal said carefully. We'll take it under review, and will the CEO sign it, here? Maya asked from the floor, not waiting for the mic. Not by email. Here. Jamal didn't bluff. I can't commit for him, he said, but I can deliver the ask. The room emptied into hallways, flush with adrenaline and shared links. Clips of Maya's questions jumped across internal channels and then into a partner's private LinkedIn feed. Evan closed Slack and opened a spreadsheet instead. If words were going to move this, numbers should carry them. He pulled 3 months of deploy data and sorted by weekend pushes. Failures per release jumped 2.3x the following week. Meantime, to recovery ballooned. Bug count trended flat or up, morale metrics trended down. He built a simple chart, clean labels, nothing fancy. When he slid his laptop across Maya's desk, she studied it, and something in her jaw eased. Good, she said. Feelings are true, but numbers are loud. You'll need both, he said. That night, the bug bash happened on paper, but not in spirit. Maya split coverage into shifts, set a hard stop per person, sent people home when they hit it. No heroes, she said. Heroes build broken cultures. Evan moved through the room like a medic, clearing flaky tests and cutting dead code. At 10:30, he coaxed Maya toward the balcony for air. The bay was a black pane of glass with a smear of light along the The wind smelled like fog and salt. You think he'll answer? Maya asked, not looking at him. If he's smart, he won't answer by email, Evan said. He'll show up. Showing up isn't enough, she said. He needs to stay. He didn't have a script for that. He nodded. Down in the street, a rideshare idled with its hazards blinking. 2 short, 1 long, like a heartbeat. Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced. Top question on Slido for tomorrow's follow-up, she said. Has the CEO ever set foot on the 7th floor? He's been on the 42nd, Evan said, and immediately hated the line. Maya huffed a laugh that wasn't cruel. Yeah. Everyone knows where the 42nd is. The balcony door swung open. Jamal stuck his head out, eyes bright, coat already on. 10 a.m. tomorrow, he said. Town Hall, Part 2. Different from today, how? Maya asked. Jamal's mouth twitched. I can't promise anything, but I asked the right person, the right question, in the right words. He tapped the doorframe. Get sleep. You'll want your voice. When he left, the door sighed shut, leaving the hush of a building that never really slept. Evan stared at his hands on the railing. They were steady. He couldn't tell if that was good. He walked Maya back to the war room. The lights made everyone look a little pale, a little sainted. Someone had taped a new post-it above the main monitor. Don't set yourself on fire to keep the sprint warm. Maya saw it, smiled, and peeled it off to stick on her laptop instead. See you in the morning, she said. Yeah, he said, and meant it more than he should. Back at his temporary desk, Evan turned his badge over until the plastic squeaked. The white rectangle didn't know who he was. It didn't care. He pulled his phone, opened a draft email to the head of security, then closed it. If he was going to do this, it couldn't be a stunt. It couldn't be a corridor appearance and a quote for PR. If he was going to ask people to trust him, he would have to walk onto that stage tomorrow as Ethan Cole and say out loud, to their faces, what he'd only admitted to himself in an empty room. We were wrong. We can do better. I'm staying. He shut the laptop and sat with the thought until it stopped sounding like a line and started feeling like a commitment. The building hummed around him, air moving through ducts, lights flicking in corners as sensors misread still bodies. He could feel the 42nd floor above him like a weight and the 7th floor under him like a spring. Trust. Jamal had said. Show up. Tell the truth. Tell it tomorrow, Evan slid the badge into his pocket like a promise and headed for the elevators, counting floors on the way down instead of up. At 9:58 a.m., the fifth-floor auditorium felt like a charging storm quiet, built with pressure. Evan stood at the back, hoodie up, scanning for exits. 2 minutes later, Jamal stepped out. No slides this time, just a mic and a tight smile. "Thanks for coming back," he said. "No deck, just conversation. I've shared yesterday's questions with leadership." He looked toward the wing. A beat. Then Ethan Cole walked on stage, no tie. Shirt sleeves rolled. The room didn't applaud. It inhaled. Evan watched his other life cross the floorboards. The body language he knew as well as his own, because it was his own. That was the point. "Good morning," Ethan said. The mic put his voice everywhere at once. "I read the anonymous email. I sat in the all-hands. I heard you yesterday. That's on me. I wasn't here to hear it sooner." A few heads turned toward Maya, who sat in the second row, still as a plumb line. "We're pausing mandatory weekend work as a default," Ethan continued. "Effective today. If a production incident truly requires it, leadership will sign that exception with names, not nouns like the business. We're also going to draft, with employee representatives, a sustainable pace charter. If we can't sign it on this stage in a week, that's a failure I'll own." He didn't look at Jamal, he looked at the rows. "I can't stand here and promise zero reductions," he said. "We don't control rates or markets, but I can commit to fewer surprises and more presence. I'll hold open hours, weekly on 7, not 42. And one more thing. If you've been told your value is tied to how long you stay logged in, that ends today." He opened his hands like a man without tricks. Questions? They came. Layoffs, transfers, overtime. Ethan didn't dodge, which meant he didn't make a lot of people feel better. But the answers sounded less like laminated cards and more like speech. When Maya stood, the room went quiet for her without being asked. "The charter in a week," she said. "Employees pick the representatives." "Yes," Ethan said. "And if what those reps ask for makes you uncomfortable, I'll say so on a stage like this," he said. "And I'll say why. No more memos that could have been written by a thesaurus." Something moved in the room, laughter, relief, distrust, loosening by a millimeter. Maya nodded once, sat. Evan felt the absurd urge to thank himself and the equal urge to run. 30 minutes later, when the auditorium bled back into hallways, Slack lit up with shaky optimism and eye rolls in equal measure. Jamal caught Evan by the elevators, eyes crinkled. "Neat trick," he murmured. "Not a trick," Evan said. "Not anymore." "Good," Jamal said. "Because tricks don't hold weight." On 7, the war room greeted him with a familiar hum of lines and lights. Maya came in a minute later, a paper cup in each hand. She set one by his keyboard. "You heard?" She asked. "I was in the back," he said, telling the truth with a twist. He sounded less like a press release. He sounded like a person, she said. "We'll see if the calendar believes it." Her phone pinged. She glanced, and there it is. Invite, Sustainable Pace Draft Working Group, Jamal. Me, to staff engineers, a designer, HR, and Ava from PR. "Ava's good," Evan said before he remembered contractors weren't supposed to know that. Maya's eyes flicked up, paper cut sharp. "You know her." "She handled an incident at a previous client," he said, smoothing the sentence on the fly. Smart doesn't polish truth into fiction. Maya let it go or shelved it. We'll need numbers, she said. Thanks for the charts on weekend failure rates. Bring more bullets. He nodded, then typed with the desperation of a man outrunning his own shadows. The sabotage hit at 3:14 p.m., ugly and fast. The build turned green, then crimsoned back to red with an error Evan had never seen. Artifact mismatch and signed binary. A second later, security Slack lit up. Unusual credential use detected. A third later, the intern from the night before stood in the doorway, white to the lips, to security analysts at his shoulders. I didn't, the kid stammered. I was at my desk, and then I wasn't. I mean, I went to the bathroom, and hold on, Maya said, hands up, voice even. No perp walks in my room. Sit. Everyone else, keep working. The analysts bristled, then recognized a fight they wouldn't win and stepped back. Maya pointed the intern Sam to a chair. His hands shook. Evan, she said, eyes on the wall of logs. Find me the first weird thing. He leaned in. The commit that tripped the pipeline had come from Sam's token. The IP address wasn't his workstation. It mapped to a different floor, a different VLAN. He pivoted to badge logs. Sam had badged out at 3:06 to the restroom. The artifact server showed a brief spike in connections from an office subnet that wasn't Aurora's. Someone used his token from a different machine, Evan said. Either stolen or scraped. Sam made a sound that was not a word. Maya's jaw ticked. Evan pulled bot logs and frowned. The build bot wrote a plaintext cache to a shared temp directory on the packaging host last night, he said. It shouldn't, and that host is accessible to anyone on the corporate network with the right SSH jump. He pinged the security channel with the findings. One of the analysts swore. We'll take it from here, she typed. Evan ignored the territorial growl and kept digging. Why unsigned? Maya asked, pointing to the error. Because whoever tried to sneak it in doesn't have the signing key, Evan said. They could swap the binary, not the signature. We got lucky, or smart. Let's be smart on purpose, Maya said. Rotate Sam's token, rotate the bot, lock that host, and she stopped mid-sentence. Slack exploded in #rumor-mill, a post on an industry forum claiming that Aurora compiled third-party code without attribution, complete with fuzzy screenshots. The handle was anonymous, the timing suspicious. A minute later, a few Aurora engineers received direct LinkedIn messages from Whitman Dynamics recruiters offering sanctuary packages. Tyler, Evan said, and the name tasted like tin. Tyler Whitman had been shadowboxing them for months, funding rumor sites, surfing the line between flattery and theft. Maya read the screen, then closed her laptop like she was shutting a door in a windstorm. We fix the house first, she said. Then we decide which neighbor to sue. She was already assigning tasks, voice clipped now from focus, not fear. Rotate credentials, lock down the temp directory, move signing to a hardware module, audit accesses across subnet, cordon the build environment so a jumping SSH could only bang against a shut gate. Within an hour, the pipeline moved from arterial bleed to controlled drip. The unsigned binary never made it past the gate. Sam's color climbed back toward human. The security team came back, contrite. We'll file the incident, one said. You do good work. Maya does, Evan said, and meant it, at 5:52 p.m. Ava Chen materialized in the doorway with a laptop and an expression that said 6 fires were burning and only 5 buckets existed. "Hi," she said, breathless but smiling. "Sustainable pace meeting tomorrow at 3, but until then I need a brain dump on what just happened. If I'm going to talk to reporters off the record, I want to be able to say what we did right." She looked at Evan, then at Maya. Her gaze lingered on Evan half a second longer than it should have. The way a chess player lingers over a surprising move. "Contractor," Maya said, by way of introduction. "Evan, he's been useful. Useful is my favorite adjective," Ava said. "Walk me through the timeline in words a human can say." They did, swapping verbs and diagrams until the story made sense. An attempted swap caught by a signature gate. A leaky bot that shouldn't leak anymore. A kid whose name would not be the cautionary tale of the week. When Ava closed her laptop, she made a face. "Also, Whitman's people are sniffing around. Offers going out this afternoon. If anyone posts on Blind about escape packages, don't bite. We're drafting a response that says exactly nothing inflammatory and everything necessary." "Tyler's timing is artful," Maya said. "Tyler's art is plagiarism," Ava said, then looked at Evan again, that not quite frown. "Have we met?" Evan shook his head. "I follow your crisis playbooks," he said, which technically wasn't a lie. When Ava left, the room felt lighter, like the storm had moved a few blocks east. People started talking about dinner. Sam slunk over. "Thank you," he said to Maya, then, awkwardly, to Evan. "I thought my life was." "It isn't," Maya said. "But change your GitHub password and take a lap. Fresh air is a medicine." He nodded, fled. Maya leaned on the edge of the table and looked at Evan like he was a problem she intended to solve. "How did you know to pull badge logs?" she asked. "I've been around," he said. "Been around where?" "Enough places to know when the wrong person is getting blamed," he said. It was true, the way a map is true if you squint. She didn't push. Her phone vibrated. She glanced and smiled. "Mum, vitamin reminder." "Right on schedule." "Right on schedule," he echoed. They stood a minute in the hum. The kind of silence that happens when the danger isn't gone but it has stepped back. Outside, the bay turned iron. Inside, the monitors looked less angry. At 7:06 p.m., Evan's phone buzzed with a message he didn't want. "Claudia Price. We need to talk about a contractor named Evan Clark. Conference room. 42, tomorrow 8 a.m. His stomach dropped a fraction before he schooled his face. Claudia had finally seen something logs, access, a camera capture. Or she'd simply scented the wrongness and followed it up 40-2. He slid the phone face down. "You, okay?" Maya asked, not missing much. "Just long day," he said. "You should go home," she said. "New rule. No one sets themselves on fire to keep the sprint warm." He smiled. "I've seen that sticky note. It's on my laptop now," she said. "It makes it harder to ignore." He walked to the balcony with her one more time because he needed the air and because he couldn't look at his phone anymore. The fog had come in low, streetlights turning circles in the damp. Somewhere below, the smell of tortillas from the taqueria on the corner road, the breeze. "I meant what I asked this morning," Maya said, eyes on the grey. "About who he's turning us into." "I know," Evan said. "And I meant what I said about the charter," she added. "Sign it here." With us, he thought of Claudia's message, a sentence shaped like a trap. He thought of Jamal's, a sentence shaped like a path. He thought of the intern's hands shaking and the way they steadied. "Then we'll make something worth signing," he said. "Good," she said. "Because if he doesn't, we will." When they went back in, the room had thinned to the true believers and the people who had forgotten how to stop. Maya shut her laptop with a decisive click. "Go home, Evan," she said. "Future you will say thanks." He gathered his things. At the door, his phone buzzed again. Another message, this one from an unknown number. "Coffee truck on Townsend. 8:30 a.m. Tell your engineers to swing by. Generous packages, Whitman." He stared at it until the words blurred and turned into choices. In his pocket, the contractor badge felt like a playing card getting warm. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., he owed Claudia an answer. At 8:30, Tyler would be parked at the curb with a smile and a pen. At 10 o'clock, he was supposed to sit in a small room and help draft a charter about pace and promises. 3 clocks, 1 man, 2 names. He slid the phone away and stepped into the hall, counting the floors down out of habit, then up again, because both ways mattered now. At 8 a.m., Ethan walked onto 42 as himself. No hoodie, no badge that said temp. Claudia was waiting in a small conference room with the blinds tilted shut and a folder he knew was for effect, not content. "Spare me the principles," she said. "Did you create a fake contractor profile and insert yourself into a regulated environment?" "Yes," Ethan said. "It is reckless," Claudia replied. "It is discoverable. And if a journalist learns your CEO went undercover while we're preparing reductions, we don't get a tidy redemption arc, we get a proxy fight." Ethan kept his voice flat. "I found a culture that's fraying and a pipeline that breaks under incentives we set. I'm fixing both." "You're making promises you can't model," she said, pausing mandatory weekends, drafting charters on the fly. "You think activists care about sustainable pace? We keep losing the same battle," Ethan said. "We sprint, we burn out, we ship brittle, we spend double to patch it. The data supports a change, and we'll still hit our numbers if we stop paying the hidden tax." Claudia leaned back. "Here are my conditions. 1. Evan Clark is terminated in the system by noon. 2. The charter process runs through HR and legal, not a Slack poll. 3. You stop free soloing and use your staff. Fine on HR and legal," he said. "I'll sunset the alias. But the charter moves forward this week, not next quarter, and the default on weekend work flips today." She weighed it. "I'll tolerate your theater if it stabilizes output. But if this backfires, I will advise the board to remove you." "Understood," Ethan said. "One more thing. Whitman's poaching. He's outside at 8:30 with a coffee truck and sanctuary packages. We need security there, and we need presence." Claudia's expression barely moved. "PR can monitor. Legal can watch for tortious interference. Don't create a scene." He left before the argument became another meeting. On Townsend, a matte black truck idled at the curb. The Whitman Dynamics logo tastefully small under a banner. Coffee and conversation. Recruiters with perfect smiles handed out lattes with QR codes on the sleeves. Ethan arrived as Ethan. No stage, no mic. He stepped into the line and paid the barista for the next 100 drinks. "On coal," he said loud enough to carry. "Breakfast should never come with a catch." Tyler Whitman appeared from behind the truck like a magician revealing a dove. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, a parka expensive enough to be impolite. "Ethan," Tyler said, grin bright. Neighbors being neighborly. Neighbors should knock, Ethan said. Not fish. Tyler's grin widened. If people are happy, they don't bite. They're busy, Ethan said. It's demo week. Tyler's eyes flicked toward the building. Busy shipping third-party code? He asked innocently. Ethan didn't blink. Busy shipping signed code, he said. Enjoy the coffee. Please, don't block the fire lane. He didn't stay to spar. He shook a few hands, thanked the baristas, and walked back inside. Presence over posture. Jamal texted a thumbs up and a photo of a recruiter being politely moved off the loading dock by facilities at 10 o'clock. The Sustainable Pace Working Group met in a room that held 8 chairs and no excuses. Jamal ran point. HR and legal listened. Ava sat near the door, laptop open, capturing language. Maya arrived 2 minutes early, notebook ready. She nodded once at Ethan, as if recognizing the man from the stage and filing away the contrast with the contractor who fixed her canary deploy. If she suspected, she didn't show it. Principles first, Maya said. Practices later. They worked fast. No mandatory weekend work by default. Exceptions require named executive sponsors, incident IDs, and postmortems. Clear on-call rotations with rest. Minimum 12 hours off after any night page. Badge data limited to safety and compliance. No minute level, time tracking, planning, discipline. Product must agree to buffer in roadmaps. Managers accountable for surprise cuts to scope. Deployment guardrails. No net new features after 7 p.m. Local without sign -off. No punishment for raising risk. Public commitment. Flagging unsustainable timelines is performance-positive. Metrics transparency. Monthly internal report. Failure rates, incident counts, MTTR, attrition. Names, not nouns. Any policy that costs people nights or weekends carries a human signature. Legal-tuned phrasing. HR added definitions. Jamal set a 1-week clock. We reconvene next Wednesday at noon, he said. Stage signing if we have consensus. Stage? Ethan asked. People heard you promise, Jamal said. They'll need to see you keep it. Maya closed her notebook. We also need teeth, she said. If a leader ignores the charter, what happens? Breach report to HR, Jamal said. Escalation to the coup. Repeat offenders go in front of the CEO. Maya's eyes landed on Ethan for half a heartbeat. Good, she said. Then it's not just a poster. Ava raised a hand. One more reality check, she said. Whitman is feeding a narrative that we're brittle and messy. Transparency helps, but anything you say becomes a quote. Keep the language crisp. We fix our house. We don't light theirs. Maya nodded. We'll let facts do the talking. They adjourned in under an hour. No victory lap. Work to do by mid-afternoon. The sabotage story tried to grow legs. An anonymous forum post claimed Aurora had borrowed open source without attribution. Ava pushed a neutral statement to press contacts. We use open source responsibly and contribute back. Yesterday's pipeline event was blocked by our signing process by design. No fireworks. No fuel. Security rotated credentials. Engineering moved signing to a hardware module. The build went green and stayed that way. Sam, the intern, sent Maya a thank you Slack with too many exclamation points. She replied with a reminder to drink water and rotate passwords at 5 o'clock. David Kim stopped by the war room, read the charter draft, and exhaled like someone who'd been holding breath for a month. "This is sane," he said. "Sane is rare. It's enforceable," Maya said. "Sane and enforceable beats brave and impossible." David looked at Ethan. "We'll need your voice with the board," he said. "You'll have it," Ethan said. He almost added, "You already do." The text from Claudia. Hit at 5:37. Board wants a special session Friday. Topic: Leadership, Process and Risk. Translation: Your undercover stunt, your charter timeline, your fight with Whitman. Ethan replied, "I'll be ready." 5 minutes later, a different text buzzed, unknown number again. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m., coffee." Not a truck. Talk. He knew the cadence. Tyler, he ignored it. He closed his laptop and found Maya already packing up. She looked tired in the honest way, no martyrdom, just miles. "How's your mum?" he asked before he could decide not to. Maya's expression softened. "Stubborn," she said, "which is how we got here." He smiled. "Stubborn is a feature. Sometimes," she said. "You looked different this morning." "Stage lights," he deflected. "Maybe," she said. "Whoever wrote that speech, tell him to keep writing like a person." "I will," he said. She hesitated. "Evan," she stopped, recalibrated. "Thanks for the chart. And for not letting them perp walk Sam." "Teams are systems," he said. "You fix the system, the symptoms stop." "Say that louder in the boardroom," she said. He wanted to tell her. He wanted to say, "I will, because I'm the one in it." Instead, he said, "See you tomorrow," and watched her go. Shortly after 8, the 7th floor thinned to the soft noise of people who had learned to leave while it still counted as leaving. Ethan walked alone to the balcony. The bay was slate. The city lights were beginning to blink. He pulled out his phone and typed a message he didn't send. "I need to come clean." He deleted it. He typed another, "We sign on Wednesday." He sent that to Jamal instead. On his way out, he passed the espresso machine. Someone had taped a fresh note above the steamer wand. Names, not nouns. He didn't know who wrote it. He hoped it stuck in the elevator. He looked at his reflection and saw both faces at once. The contractor who could fix a flaking canary and the CEO who could move a calendar. Fault lines ran between them. He had a week to pour concrete and culture on process, on trust before the board tried to pry them apart. Tomorrow, he would terminate Evan Clark in the system. Tomorrow, he would brief the board. Tomorrow, Whitman would show up somewhere with a smile and a new angle. Tonight, he would sleep. Not because everything was solved, because pace, if it was going to be sustainable, had to start at the top. He put his phone away, let the elevator open into the lobby, and walked out into the cooling San Francisco evening. 2 names, 1 spine, and a clock that wouldn't stop just because he finally decided to use it well. At 7:41 a.m., an HR blast went out to a small distribution list. Access termination, Evan Clark, contractor. The system dutifully detached a white rectangle of plastic from every door and repo it touched. On 7, no one noticed at first. People were busy chasing a green dashboard. On 42, Claudia noticed instantly. Ethan noticed too. He was the one who'd asked Jamal to pull the plug. No more mask. If he was going to ask 1,000 people to sign their names under a set of promises, he didn't get to keep an alias. At 9, he carried a notebook. Not levered down to the cafeteria and sat at the table by the espresso machine. A handwritten sign leaned against his cup. Open hours, Ethan. No camera crew, no comms handler. Jamal stood 10 feet away, not guarding, just orbiting. The first engineer who walked up looked as if he'd turned the wrong corner and ended up at jury duty. "So, this is real?" he asked. "It is," Ethan said. "What should I know that I won't see on a dashboard?" "Badge tracking," the engineer said. "It feels like a stopwatch. Working with HR to limit to safety and compliance only," Ethan said, writing it down. "We'll publish the policy so it's clear." A designer asked why product briefs morphed mid-sprint. A data scientist wanted to know if on-call would come with real recovery windows. Someone from facilities begged for a freeze on emergency moves that weren't emergencies. Ethan wrote each item by hand, said when he didn't know, and set due dates when he did. It wasn't penance, but it resembled one. Maya arrived midway through the hour. Notebook under her arm, a look that was neither welcome nor dismissal. She waited until the line thinned, then slid into the chair across from him. "You're early for a Wednesday signing," she said. "Practice," Ethan said. She nodded once. "We have a draft with teeth." "I saw," he said. "Good teeth. We'll need a jaw," she said. "Enforcement. Jamal and David are working on escalation paths," Ethan said. "Breach reports. Consequences." Maya tapped the notebook. "One more principle for the list. No decisions that change people's lives made by email." "That one's mine," he said. "I'll sign it twice." Her mouth quirked, not quite a smile. "Good. I brought numbers for the working group at 10. "Bring them," he said. And for a moment it felt like they were two PMs exchanging artifacts. Not a CEO trying to earn back something intangible from a person who had told him. Without knowing, she told him what he'd broken by 10. The Sustainable Pace Group had a near-final draft. Legal had cauterized the edges. HR had added definitions that would hold in a grievance. Ava tightened the preamble into something that sounded like English. "We build better when we are whole." "Stage signing next Wednesday at noon," Jamal said, capping his pen. "I'll send the invite company-wide." "Make sure the stage is on 7, Maya said. "Not in the auditorium." "Done," Jamal said. Ethan's phone buzzed. "Claudia, board session moved up to this afternoon. 3 p.m. Be ready to explain charter, undercover, and risk," he replied. "I will." He looked at Maya. "I have a board thing." "Say the sentence you said here," she said. "Then show your charts." "People board seats like numbers." "They do," he said. At 12:13 p.m., Ava appeared in the doorway of the war room, breathless. "Heads up," she said, laptop half open. "There's a rumor piece loading in 15 on a tech blog. Sources say Cole's CEO went undercover as contractor to spy on workers. They've got a grainy badge, photo, and big conclusions." Maya's head turned. "Spy, not the word I would choose," Ava said dryly. "We can deny specifics and then look silly when the real photos show up, or we can get in front of it." Ethan felt the ground tilt. This was the moment it stopped being a controlled experiment and started being a narrative anyone could buy. He looked at Ava. "Honest statement," he said. "No hearts and minds cliches." One paragraph. "I went down to understand the work. I shouldn't have kept it secret this long. What we found were fixing charter, policy changes, data. No drama, no heroics." "Good," Ava said. And before we hit publish, I'll tell the people who'll read it over lunch anyway," he said. He found Maya by the window, looking out at a stripe of bay between two buildings. "The blog piece," he said. "It's true in part. I worked as a contractor for a week to see what I hadn't seen. I should have told you sooner. I didn't, and that was wrong." She held his gaze for a beat that stretched. "You stood on a stage and asked us to sign our names under no surprises," she said. "Tiny surprise, irony, I know," he said. "You going undercover isn't the worst thing I've seen a CEO do," she said. "You not owning it would have been—" She closed her notebook. "So own it. With names, not nouns." "I will," he said. And after that, she added, "No more masks. You want to know what's going on? Come sit in a stand-up. Deal," he said. Ava's statement went live 9 minutes before the blog posted. It didn't trend. It didn't try to. The tech blog ran to blurry photos and a sneer. Internally, the reaction split down familiar seams. Some called it leadership, some called it theater. "Jamal DMD, Ethan. You'll win this in days, not minutes. Keep showing up." At 3 o'clock, Ethan walked into the boardroom with David and Claudia. The independent directors sat in their glass rectangle like a jury. One former CFO with a permanent wince. One fund manager whose job was to be unimpressed. One founder-turned-investor who alternated between zen and volcanic. An activist observer sat near the wall, ready to turn anything into a letter. Claudia went first. Our CEO inserted himself into a controlled environment under an alias. He has promised policy changes without committee review. There is a charter in draft that, if improperly scoped, could impact output. David followed. The charter addresses real operational debt. We've been paying for scheduled theater with attrition and failure rates. The data shows weekend pushes spike defects. The signing is accountability, not PR. Ethan put up 3 slides. They were not beautiful. They were true. A graph of post-weekend defect rates. A bar of MTTR, before and after enforced rest. A curve of attrition peaking after crunch quarters. He didn't show a single photograph. He didn't say family. "We're bleeding in hidden ways," he said. "Sustainable pace lowers incident volume and rework. It retains senior ICs. We cannot replace at any price. If you want operating margin back, this is one of the ways we get it." The former CFO peered over her glasses. "And the undercover episode?" "I needed first-person signal," Ethan said. "I shouldn't have stayed silent as long as I did. I've ended the alias. I've been holding open hours in the cafeteria. I'll measure the charter's impact like any other bet, and I'll reverse it if the data says I'm wrong." The fund manager leaned back. "What if the data says you're right, but the market punishes the optics?" "Then we grow a spine," David said, before he could stop himself. A silence stretched. The founder-turned-investor smiled a little. "Spines are underrated," he said. "I've run companies through worse storms than a blog post. I care about whether we ship something customers stay for." The activist observer scribbled, "We'll reserve judgment. We'd like reporting cadence weekly for a quarter." "You'll have it," Ethan said. They left with no applause and no guillotine. Claudia lingered until the others were gone. "You've got yourself 90 days, she said. "Use them. And keep your open hours off LinkedIn." "I'm not performing this," Ethan said. "Everyone's performing," Claudia said. "The question is for whom?" He didn't answer. He went back to 7, At 5, Aurora's demo clicked through like a metronome, finally finding the beat. Canary behaved. Rollbacks were slow and careful by design. The unsigned binary that had tried to sneak in 2 days ago was now a test case with a red label. Never again, when the dashboard stayed green through 2 deploys. The room let out a breath like a door opening in spring. Sam, newly pink, brought in a box of tacos from the corner taqueria and set them down like an apology. Eat, Maya ordered, pointing at the team, and then at Ethan. That includes you. He took one, because following orders that made sense was part of the point. He ate, standing up, like everyone else, over a paper plate. For a moment, nobody talked about charters, or boards, or blogs. They talked about flaky tests that finally passed, and a UI animation that no longer stuttered. When people began to drift out, Maya closed her laptop with a decisive click. Wednesday, she said. Wednesday, he echoed. And Ethan, she added, almost as an afterthought. No more aliases. No more aliases, he said. On his way out, his phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. You got your 90. I'll be back with my truck when you blow it. They slid the phone into his pocket and kept walking. Past the espresso machine with its hand-lettered notes. Past the balcony where the bay was turning black glass again. Past the war room where a post-it read names, not nouns in a handwriting he recognized now as Maya's. 90 days. A charter to sign in 6. 3 floors to climb and descend over and over, until they weren't different countries anymore. Terms and conditions, he thought. Not a slogan, a contract. And this time, he intended to keep it.